story opens on 27 September 1942, when a Japanese transport ship called the Lisbon Maru sails from Hong Kong toward Japan, carrying thousands of British prisoners of war in its holds. Partway through the journey, on 1st October, an American submarine spots the vessel and launches a torpedo. The Lisbon Maru is hit and slowly begins to sink off the eastern coast of China, near a small island called Dongji, only a couple of miles from the attack site. At that time, the Imperial Japanese Navy is at the height of its power, but behind that military glory, civilians on Dongji Island are living in misery. The small island is under Japanese occupation. For 3 years, local fishermen have been banned from going out to sea. Their boats are seized, and a once peaceful life is replaced by fear and oppression. Even so, two tough brothers named Abi and Adang still dare to break the rules. They are known as brave fishermen who live on the far side of the island, away from the main village. Years earlier, they had been rescued and raised by an elder named Mr. Wu, one of Dongji's respected figures. Because no one knows where the brothers originally came from, the villagers often refer to them as pirates. One day, while they are out at sea as usual, Adang is diving near the seabed when he is startled by a submarine that suddenly passes right above him. On the surface, Abi sees a massive Japanese ship moving across the water. Without warning, the submarine fires a torpedo that slams into the Japanese vessel, triggering a powerful explosion. Abi immediately jumps into the water to pull his younger brother back to safety, while Adang innocently swims closer to the submarine, curious and unaware of the danger, until Abi drags him back to their boat. The sound of the blast carries all the way to the village, sending the residents into a panic. The Japanese commander on the island quickly orders his men to report to headquarters, and troops begin preparing for an emergency response and possible evacuation. Danger was only beginning. This is Dongji Rescue. Out at sea, Abi and Adang then spot a man drifting between the waves. Without thinking twice, Adang dives in to rescue him, even though Abi strongly disagrees. They manage to haul the man onto their boat, but Abi, afraid this will bring serious trouble, ties his younger brother's hands so he cannot interfere further. He then pushes the wounded stranger back into the water, leaving him only a basket to cling to so he can stay afloat. This kind of conflict is nothing new between the brothers. Since childhood, Adang has always followed Abi out to sea, but as he grows older, his stubborn nature makes him more and more defiant. When they return home, Abi ties him up again, trying to stop him from doing anything reckless or going back to the water. As soon as Abi leaves to deliver tribute to the Japanese soldiers, Adang quietly slips away. Ignoring the danger, he returns to the sea to save the foreigner they left behind. The man eventually regains consciousness and identifies himself as Thomas. He tries to explain that thousands of his comrades are still trapped inside the sinking ship. But because of the language barrier, Adang cannot fully understand what he is saying. When Thomas gestures for a piece of metal or a knife, Adang misunderstands his request. Thomas patiently shows him what he means, and Adang finally realizes that Thomas only wants to cauterize his wound, burning it to stop the bleeding. On the Japanese side, soldiers begin reporting that a local fishing boat was seen near the scene of the sinking. The movement of that small boat raises suspicion, and the Japanese officers start keeping a closer eye on the villagers. Meanwhile, Adang quietly slips away to meet his lover, Ah Hua, the only woman who treats him with kindness, even though both of them are often shunned by the community for not being native to Dongji. They usually meet in a small cave that has become their private hideout. Back at home, Thomas is still fighting through his injuries while Adang helps him recover. Communication between them is difficult, but they try their best to understand one another. Thomas shows Adang a few personal items he carries, like a stethoscope and a globe, then explains who he is through simple gestures. Bit by bit, a sense of trust begins to grow. On the sinking Japanese ship, the situation is becoming critical. Hundreds of prisoners of war remain trapped in cargo holds 2 and 3. They receive no food or water, and their condition worsens by the hour. When the guards conduct a head count, they realize one prisoner from cargo 2 has disappeared. Elsewhere, Mr. Chen is enjoying lunch with the children he teaches when the village chief barges in. He demands that Mr. Chen use Japanese school books in his lessons. Instead of agreeing, Mr. Chen burns the book right in front of him. The chief explodes in anger, reminding him that the villagers once tried to resist Japan and only brought ruin upon themselves. He urges Mr. Chen to obey for the sake of everyone's safety. But Mr. Chen refuses to bow to the occupiers and drives the chief out of his home. Not long after, Adang arrives through the back door. He begs Mr. Chen to come to his house and help translate what Thomas is trying to say. Before they can get far, chaos erupts when Ahbi returns unexpectedly and sees Thomas inside his home. Fearing that this foreigner will bring trouble, Ahbi drags him outside in panic. Mr. Chen and Ah Dang rush in just in time. Once they calm things down, Mr. Chen sends Ahbi outside and begins speaking to Thomas. His English is limited, but he still understands a few key words. When Thomas reveals that he is British, both men freeze. They know that if the Japanese find out, the entire village could be accused of treason. Ahbi overhears this and tries to push his way back in. His only thought is to hand Thomas over to the Japanese to protect himself, but Ah Dang blocks the door and refuses to step aside. With tension rising, Mr. Chen quickly orders Ah Dang to change Thomas's clothing so that he looks less suspicious, then hide him somewhere safe before the Japanese come looking. On the other side of the island, Ahbi, frustrated and desperate, makes a risky choice. He sneaks into the Japanese observation post to find out what the soldiers are planning. Inside, he discovers something alarming. In just 4 hours, Japanese troops will land on Dongji. The clock is already ticking. Realizing how serious the situation is, Ahbi rushes to tell the village elder, Mr. Wu. He explains that everyone needs to prepare because the Japanese are coming soon. They also now have Thomas, a British man with blonde hair and blue eyes, someone who might be able to help train the villagers to defend themselves. Hearing this, Mr. Wu falls silent, weighed down by the danger that is closing in. But the moment Ahbi leaves the elder's house, trouble strikes. The village chief and several men throw a net over him, trapping him. Furious and frightened, the chief demands answers. Once he hears the truth, he realizes the village has no time to waste. They must find the British man before the Japanese do. If the soldiers get to him first, every villager could be branded a traitor. The chief immediately orders everyone to start searching. While the villagers scramble, the Japanese forces finally arrive. The chief gathers everyone at the dock to present themselves. Lieutenant Jutsi steps off the ship with his men and demands that the villagers hand over the blonde, blue-eyed foreigner. The chief insists no such person exists on the island, but the lieutenant remains suspicious. After all, they had already spotted 2 local brothers sailing near the area of the sinking. Meanwhile, Ahbi has packed his belongings and is preparing to flee the island. He begs Ah Hua to come with him, but she refuses. She will not abandon her father, Mr. Wu. Their argument ends abruptly as a deafening explosion shakes the air. At the dock, Lieutenant Jutsi has ordered his soldiers to fire on the villagers' boats, one by one, to force them to confess. Chaos spreads. People panic. One villager tries to fight back and is beaten mercilessly. Seeing the violence get worse, Mr. Wu steps forward, hoping to calm the situation. Instead, he is brutally attacked by the soldiers. The same villagers who were beaten earlier die on the spot, along with a child who tries to help. Witnessing the cruelty, Thomas can no longer stand by. Overwhelmed with guilt, he steps forward and surrenders himself. But instead of calming the lieutenant, this only enrages him. Learning that the villagers truly hit a British man, he orders several young men to be taken as hostages and prepares to punish the entire village. Badly injured, Mr. Wu rises one last time and pleads for the young men to be released. He offers himself in their place. The lieutenant refuses. With cold precision, he strikes him down and kills him. As the soldiers prepare to march the hostages away, Ah Dang suddenly steps out and volunteers to go with them. After this horrific scene, the village chief turns his anger on Ahbi and Mr. Chen, blaming them for everything that has happened. But Ahbi fires back. He calls out the chief for allowing the entire village to live in fear of only 2 Japanese soldiers. With 300 villagers and only 2 oppressors, he argues, it is their own fear that has kept them suffering for so long. Meanwhile, Ah Dang and several young men from the village are taken to the Japanese ship that is already half submerged. They are thrown straight into the detention area, locked away with no idea what awaits them. Inside the captain's quarters, Lieutenant Jutsi reports the situation to his superior. The captain orders the evacuation to move faster so they can return to Japan as soon as possible. Some soldiers will have to stay behind and guard the ship until it sinks completely. To cover up their war crimes, the captain makes a brutal decision. Every resident of Dongji Island is to be wiped out. When the lieutenant asks what will happen to the thousands of prisoners still trapped below, the captain calmly states that they will be allowed to go down with the ship. Hearing this, the guards rush to seal the bulkhead doors, trapping the prisoners inside. Panic erupts as the captives push and scramble for air. Through all of this, Lieutenant Jutsi and 6 of his men remain at their posts, ready to die with the vessel as a final act of loyalty. Back on the island, the villagers gather for the funeral of those who were killed earlier. The solemn ceremony turns into terror when Japanese soldiers suddenly open fire, punishing them for leaving their homes after curfew. Ah Hua tries to fight back, but the village chief holds her back and attempts to negotiate, hoping the bodies of the fallen can at least be treated with respect. The soldiers refuse, continuing to fire without mercy. Conditions inside the sinking ship worsen by the minute. The lower walls begin to break, allowing seawater to flood in with tremendous force. In the chaos, Dong dives beneath the flooding decks, searching for a way out through underwater passages. At the same time, Mr. Chen, unable to bear the cruelty of the Japanese any longer, makes a desperate choice. He takes a weapon and slips toward the Japanese outpost, determined to retaliate. While Dong struggles underwater, Abi sneaks onto the ship from above, hoping to find his brother. At the outpost, Mr. Chen manages to infiltrate the building, but his weapon jams. He is captured immediately and burned alive in front of the villagers as a warning to anyone who might dare to resist. Underwater, Dong continues searching, only to be crushed by falling debris. With his air running out, he is moments from losing consciousness when Abi reaches him just in time. Using every bit of strength, the brothers swim toward the surface. They finally break through the water and try to escape the sinking Japanese vessel, but before they can get away, Dong turns back toward the detention area. He refuses to abandon the prisoners, still trapped inside. Together, the brothers force the doors open. A few captives manage to escape, and as soon as they reach the deck, they fight back against the Japanese soldiers. In the chaos that erupts on the sinking ship, Dong fights his way up to the deck. With nothing but courage left to give, he charges straight at Lieutenant Yutzi. Even as bullets tear through his body, he refuses to back down. Blow after blow, he keeps fighting until he finally overpowers the lieutenant and ends his life. His victory comes with the ultimate cost. Dong collapses on the deck and dies where he stands. The remaining prisoners and the village youths manage to escape with Abi, who carries his brother's lifeless body in his arms. They swim through the rough water until they reach Dongji Island. Once on shore, Abi lays Dong down and is overcome with grief. For a long moment, he says nothing and simply mourns the brother who always followed him into the sea. But grief soon turns into anger. Abi rises and storms toward the Japanese outpost, determined to strike back at the soldiers who remain. At the same time, the survivors who escaped the ship recount what they witnessed inside. They describe the horrors of the detention rooms, the cruelty of the guards, and the countless prisoners who drowned below deck. Hearing this, Hua immediately orders the villagers to prepare their boats. She wants to rescue any remaining prisoners still trapped at sea. But village tradition forbids women from sailing, and she is held back. In that moment, Abi arrives carrying weapons and a document he stole from the Japanese outpost. The village chief reads it and is stunned. The order demands the complete extermination of every person on Dongji Island. With the truth finally exposed, Abi heads out again. Before he can leave, Hua runs after him and vows her love and loyalty, promising to stand with him even if the village customs forbid it. With whatever strength he has left, Abi sails toward the wrecked ship. He manages to open one of the flooded detention rooms, only to find that everyone inside has already drowned. Refusing to give up, he forces open another compartment that is only half submerged. Inside, he finds survivors. Together, they fight their way through the remaining Japanese soldiers still clinging to the crumbling ship. In the end, they prevail. The rescued American soldiers honor Abi for his bravery, moved by the lengths he went to save them. But the moment of victory is short-lived. Japanese reinforcements arrive on rubber boats and launch a fresh assault without mercy. The surviving Americans leap into the water, trying to capsize the incoming boats. But the enemy remains ruthless. They strike down anyone still struggling in the sea. The situation turns desperate. Abi acts quickly. He grabs a strip of cloth, dives beneath the water, and ties it to the engine of one of the Japanese boats. The engine seizes, stopping the boat in its tracks and giving the American prisoners a chance to flip it over and fight back. Wounded and exhausted, Abi still manages to climb onto the enemy boat. He fights with everything he has left, but the battle ends in tragedy when the Japanese soldiers hurl a grenade. The explosion throws Abi into the ocean, and he hits the water hard, his shoulder badly injured. Back in the village, Hua opens the hidden grave of her ancestors. Her father once concealed it to keep it from being discovered by the Japanese. Now she kneels before it, praying for permission to break the tradition that forbids women from going out to sea. To her, staying silent means surrendering. Too many lives have already been lost. With unwavering determination, she vows to fight. Out at sea, the danger only grows. The massive wreck of the Lisbon Maru creates a powerful whirlpool, pulling the exhausted American survivors toward its spinning current. They swim as hard as they can, struggling to stay alive. Just in time, Ahua and the people of Dongji arrive with their boats, racing through the waves to reach the drifting survivors. From a distance, the Japanese captain watches, unsure of what to do next. The villagers throw down nets and ropes, moving as fast as they can before the current claims more lives. Ahua climbs into a small wooden sampan tied to the larger boat. It allows her to get closer to the victims without being dragged in herself. Meanwhile, Abi is still alive but barely holding on. Through the pain, he tries to secure the ropes so the sampan can be pulled back safely. The village chief joins in to help, but the current catches him and pulls him under, ending his life instantly. Even as his strength fades, Abi keeps fighting. With the last of his energy, he ties the ropes and helps lift several American prisoners to safety. The villagers pull together, hauling the survivors one by one onto the boats until everyone is rescued. But the effort drains what little life Abi has left. He slips beneath the waves, giving himself to the same sea he fought so hard to protect. On a nearby ship, the Japanese captain considers launching an attack, but orders from above stop him. Too many villagers have arrived, and any strike could spark an international incident, so the soldiers reluctantly stand down. Out on the water, Ahua keeps searching for Abi. She calls out again and again, but the only answer is silence. Her beloved is gone, following his younger brother into eternal rest. Even so, their sacrifice is not in vain. The American prisoners are saved and cared for by the people of Dongji, despite their limited resources. The American captain offers a deep and heartfelt tribute to the villagers who risked everything to rescue them. The story closes with real testimonies from survivors of the Lisbon Maru. Their memories honor the courage of Dongji's residents, a reminder that the cruelty of war leaves scars that must never be forgotten. So the moral of the story is sometimes the people who give everything, even their lives, never get the chance to see the peace they fought for, and the world only realizes their worth when it is already too late.